Hello there. So I'm in the process of setting up my virtual machine that I'm going to use basically as my computer that I'm going to use to present information to you on this channel. So why am I using VirtualBox? Well, VirtualBox is software that lets me basically create a virtual computer on my regular computer. Um, so if you think about it, you've got your computer at home that you're probably sitting on right now watching this, and it may be, I don't know, a MacBook, or it may be Toshiba satellite with Windows running on it. And imagine if that was just a virtual machine, like in the cloud, but running on your computer. If a laptop was just a file. If you could take a hard drive and represent it on a computer logically. Same thing with memory. All you're doing in this case is this is free software that you can download and put on your machine. And what it allows you to do is interact with other types of computing environments without having to necessarily get another computer. And it allows you to do that in such a way that doesn't modify your existing configuration. So you're actually able to kind of create these sandboxes or no consequence areas where you can really experiment with. And so that should be very beneficial for the type of work we're going to be doing as we go through and learn a little bit about Python and some other ways to automate. Um, so it can be a little bit overwhelming trying to get associated with that premise, but if you if you think about it, we're doing this all the time. You've got virtual machines that run on your PlayStation, on your Xbox. That's how you get backwards compatibility. You've got virtual machines running in the clouds, hosting your applications. In those certain situations, you can have a server with maybe 100 virtual machines on it. Maybe 20 is more realistic depending on the load that they have. So we're just going to create one of those on our own little computer here. So on the left-hand side, you can see that I've already downloaded and installed VirtualBox. But how do you do it? Well, if you Google, if you do a simple search engine query, you should be able to find it for your system. If you see there's a bunch of different types of results. A lot of them are showing Windows. You should be able to find them whether you're on Linux, whether you're using Mac OS, whether you're using Windows. You should be able to find a installation guide out there that's already been written that is going to help you go through getting this set up. Now, how do you get VirtualBox? You do a search, download VirtualBox. There are other ones out there, but this is the one I use. For mine, I selected Mac OS. Now you'll see that I do already have a lab computer in here with 8 gigs of RAM and then a whopping 128 megabytes of memory for my display. Um, so this is a pretty cool computer, but this doesn't mean much to you if you haven't seen one run. So let's kick it off. Basically, I want to run this so you can actually see it boot up. And this is, I'm running Kubuntu on this, which is a Linux operating system. It's a flavor made by Canonical of Ubuntu. And you'll hear Ubuntu a lot as you get into programming more because it's really more, as far as Linux is concerned, it's more widely supported because more people use it. It's easy to use. So here's VirtualBox booting up. I'm powering up that lab machine I was telling you about. This is a virtual machine that I created on my computer that is running Linux, Kubuntu, without interrupting my regular system. So I can actually interact with this machine and explore the Linux environment. And then when I get tired of it, I can just shut it down and it's out of the way and I'm back to enjoying my regular MacBook Pro environment, which we all know is the best, right? Maybe that's why I just tell myself, refusing to accept that mine's from 2015, I think now. So let's shut this thing down. You got a couple different options here. You can do the ACPI shutdown. You can also do a power off. You can also tell it to save the state of the VM. Now, the nice thing about that save the state feature is there are situations where when you use this virtual machine, you may make a mistake and you may think, oh no, I've damaged my virtual machine. Well, sometimes these are out without consequence and you can actually you can basically reset them to what they were their baseline and start over and it's no problem. And that's why we're using them. But let me tell you about this. I've went ahead and I clicked up top to create a new machine, and now I'm filling in the details. I named it, basically I named it Gravity Purge Lab. And then I told it that it is Microsoft Windows. Now, why am I using Windows? Well, I'm using a Mac machine, and I want to be able to kind of show you an environment that you probably see. I figure more people that are going to be in this channel are probably using, or excuse me, this community are likely using Windows instead of Mac OS, but maybe I'll do both. Here I set 8 gigs of RAM for my machine. Why did I set 8? Well, it gives me plenty of room to play with. The important consideration, though, as you devote resources for your virtual machine, is to make sure that you're not devoting too much where it's going to undercut your host machine, the machine that you're running this all on. Because if you got your laptop sitting in front of you, you don't want to say, "Hey, give it 8 gigs of RAM to the virtual machine" when you only have 8 to begin with. Um, the next section below that is the actual hard drive. You see if when I hit create, this window pops up here. I'm telling it that I'm going to change the size to 100 gigabytes. Now, the important thing is here is this is a virtual hard drive and the space is dynamically allocated. So what is dynamic allocation? Dynamic allocation allows us to actually avoid using that 100 gigabytes all at once. So as we go through and we build our system, it may only actually take up 40 gigs or 60 gigs. And that's after we've installed Windows and all of our other programs that we want to be on this virtual machine in our lab environment. So if it only actually takes up 60 gigs of space, it's only going to take up 60 gigs of space on your computer's hard drive, not 100. It's only going to use what you um, fill it up with. And if you set it to 100 gigs and you only use 20, that's probably a waste. So it's important to make sure that you're setting it to the important or to the correct size. Leave room for your virtual machine to be able to grow. Leave room for you to be able to continue to add other programs to it. You don't want to be in a situation where you have to rebuild it. Okay, I am going to shut off this lab machine so that it's not making me a liar about me shutting it off earlier. Um, all right, now that that's finally powered off, I want to show you how to actually set up how to install Windows on this machine. So to set up Windows, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go up to Settings, the gear icon, and I'm going to verify a couple things first. One, I know that my name has already been set for my virtual machine when I created it, Gravity Purge Lab, but I'm also going to, well, yeah, screenshots are important. This is the directory on my local host machine where I'll save any screenshots from the guest machine. And then I've already given this 8 gigs of RAM. And then let's talk about the boot order. The boot order is the basically hierarchy or the order. It's a boot order. It's the order that the machine's going to go through and look at different devices for bootable media. Well, what do I mean from that? The computer is looking for some sort of operating system to boot from. So when we first came in here, the floppy drive was checked. So that was the first thing it's going to check to see if it's got anything to tell it how to run. Well, I'm not going to use any floppies for this, so I got rid of that one. Don't even consider it. I'm leaving the optical drive, and you might think, why do we need an optical drive if we are using a virtual machine? Well, as a part of a virtual machine, we are also creating a virtual DVD-ROM drive. You can think of it that way. And I downloaded a copy of the Windows installation media earlier from Microsoft's website, and it comes in an .iso format. And so that is a disk image. So when we associate that with the virtual drive we got earlier, I'm just giving it an extra CPU here because I can. When we associate that ISO file with the virtual optical drive from the boot order, what it's going to do is it's actually going to allow the computer to recognize the installation media and boot against that. So when the machine because remember, we just built this computer, it doesn't have anything on it. It's just got the BIOS. It doesn't have any operating systems such as Windows or Linux or Mac OS. So it needs that operating system when it boots up. And that's what we're going to give it. So we'll end up going to storage. And then once we've gone to storage, oh, Yeah, I forgot. First, we gotta go to display. We're gonna make sure our video is set to 128 megs. We're doing one monitor, and we can leave it at that. Okay, now storage. You'll see first that I've got my hard drive here. That's the 100 gigabyte hard drive that we created earlier. And then we've got our virtual installation media. Or excuse me, not virtual installation media, but we've got our virtual drive. The media is what we're going to put into it, the ISO file. So to do that, we're going to select the blue icon to the right of where it says SATA port 1. And from there, we'll actually choose file. It'll open a window. We'll select the file we downloaded earlier. I downloaded earlier the Windows installation file. And it's basically here I'm loading the DVD installation media into the drive. Bam. So we're going to hit OK. Cool. So now we've got the file in there and it's time to turn on the machine and install some Microsoft Windows. So let's hit the green arrow button at the top. All right, so this should boot up and you should see a Windows logo on the screen. This here is just verifying that I do want to use the installation media. You'll see Windows, or excuse me, VirtualBox's screen, and we should see a Windows icon anytime. There we go. Okay, so we know at this point, because we see that our computer, the virtual machine that we built, recognizes the Windows installation media, that virtual disk we gave it in the virtual DVD-ROM drive, and it's booting from it. It's getting ready to actually install Windows. So we should get brought up to a screen here pretty soon. There is a lot of just being patient in this process. All right, so here we are. This is a good sign. We're not going to change the language because I actually speak and read primarily in English, especially for the American version. They're the United States. Okay, after that, we'll hit next. It is going to prompt me for my license key. I did purchase a license key for this, so that we'll be using a legitimate copy of Windows. So I'm not going to share that key with you, but I will show you that it pops open, and then we'll continue on. Now, I should note again, your installation of Windows may be different. You may be installing a different version. Again, Google is your friend. You can even use Microsoft Bing if you want to. We're going to hit install now to continue. But the key thing is if you run into an error, Google it, try to do some troubleshooting to figure out what went wrong. Yeah, these part of working with this stuff is sometimes things do go wrong and it might seem like okay, I'm going to put in my key here and we'll continue. And then I'm totally going to read the contents of this and agree to everything and fully understand the scope of it because who would just blindly accept terms and conditions? Um, so again, your Windows installation, you may run into some issues. You may not be installing Windows. Again, search engines are your friend because there's probably already an article out there for someone else who has run into the issue and written up what they did to resolve the issue. All right, here we've got a couple different options for how to install Windows. We are not upgrading because our computer doesn't have Windows on it yet. Um, remember, this is a new machine. So we're going to choose the custom install, which is going to install a fresh copy on Windows, and we're going to choose our 100 gigabyte hard drive that we created earlier and install on there. So we should continue on. So we're just installing Windows. What fun and excitement. Alrighty. So we did some more installing and it brought us to the next menu. So what region are we in? Well, I myself am in the United States, so I'm going to select that and continue. My keyboard layout is right for me. Do I want to add a second keyboard layout? No, I'm not that fancy. Do you have two keyboards? Am I missing out on something? Is there a two keyboard trend craze? Now it has some important setup to do. I'm going to let this run through some more windows and then get back with you at a different point because this is just going to be boring. You got other things to do. You got other things to do. Thank you, Microsoft. Thank you for telling me that this might take several minutes. So kind. All right. So as you can see now, I have a Windows machine. running on my Macintosh laptop, my MacBook Pro. And it's all thanks to VirtualBox. So I hope you enjoyed following me along on this. And now that I've got this, maybe in the next video, or in the next video, I think we should install Python. So I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for following along.